Welcome back to the one slide series on control systems unlocked. Today I'm going to talk about representation of control systems, in particular transfer function representation of dynamical systems. And I believe I can explain this concept to you through two examples very well. So the first example, we have a mass car. We are applying some force, U. We are hitting the gas to change the velocity of the car toward this direction. And there is a road friction with constant B is acting on the other way. So to model this system, for example, you can use Newton's second law. Acceleration m acceleration equals to the applied forces. In this case, U is aligned with the velocity, so it is a plus sign, minus the friction because it is on the opposite sign. Again, this lecture is not about dynamics or modeling dynamical systems. You can find a lot of tools, a lot of useful videos. I am assuming you know Newton's second law, or you don't know Newton's second law. If you don't know anything about modeling, that's fine. At the end of the day, this ordinary differential equation is what we care because it represents the behavior of this dynamical system. So often we have first order, second order, higher order differential equations representing the motions of those dynamical systems. So when we design control, we most of the time we don't use ordinary differential equations. We use either transfer functions or state space representations. Right now I am covering transfer function while most of my lectures will focus on state space representations. Because of a reason I will reveal at the end of this video. So first of all, since this video is about transfer function, what is a transfer function? Transfer function is taking an ordinary differential equation and transforming it to the Laplace domain with zero initial conditions. It must be zero initial conditions by the definition of the transfer function. And you do so in a simple way. So basically, S is the Laplace variable. If you are familiar with the Laplace representations, you can Google it. It is a simple concept. All you need to do whenever you see a derivative, you are going to have S. So basically, we transform this to the Laplace domain as M is a constant. Instead of V dot, we use S multiplied by V. On the right-hand side remains unchanged, basically, since there are no derivatives. So now I am grouping terms depending on V. In this case is our output that we would like to regulate to change, and U is the input. So I am leaving input on the one side and output V on the other side. So if you take into the V parenthesis V ms plus B equals to U, or you can write V divided by U is 1 over ms plus B. That's the transfer function, okay? That's how it looks like. Basically, it is relating inputs on the denominator to the outputs, because when you write outputs divided by inputs, basically what it means is that in a block diagram configuration, 1 over ms plus b multiplied by the input u, you can send this u to the other side, so this transfer function multiplied by u is producing the output. So this is block diagram representation. This is a more formal representation. And then to find, if you're interested, I will explain. If you want to find the solution v of t, then you can, for a given input, you will basically take the inverse Laplace transformation, solve it, and you find the solution of your system. Now, I am not going to let you find the solutions. I don't find solutions to transfer functions or any other ordinary differential equations in my daily academic career or industry career. So we would like to examine the behavior by looking at this transfer function, but I will also reveal it right after this high order example. So in the high order example, instead of one derivative, you have two derivatives. What I'm going to explain can be scaled to any number of derivatives, okay? All you need to do, instead of when you transform to the Laplace domain, instead of y dot dot, s to the power of the y, 3ys plus 2y equals to su minus 3u. So basically this is what you get. You are grouping the terms depending on your output, in this case y, and input on the other side. And then outputs divided by inputs, basically s minus 3. If you send u to the other side, y over u equals to s minus 3 divided by this s to the power of 2, 3s plus 2. You get this. You can also write it like this. So now I said you don't need to find the solution, but let's say you find the solution. For this system, for a given input, you are going to get more or less something like this. D1, D2, D3 are constants. These constants can depend on the applied, let's say, constant input, amplitude, and other factors, but two things remain unchanged. Now, I want you to pay attention to this 1 and 2, and in the solution, this exponential minus 1t minus 2t. So these roots of the denominator will pop up on the exponential terms. If you have complex roots, the real part of those complex roots will also pop up in the exponential term. So even if you have real denominator roots or complex, you look at its real part, they pop up on these exponential terms. And those exponential terms are really important to us. Although we are not going to solve ordinary differential equations, we would like to understand how the system behaves, even before we control it. When I look at this system, I see that these terms represent the unforced solution, meaning subject to no inputs, and this T3 coming from the forced solution, depending on some constant u. The unforced solution will die out. Later, when we discuss the stability concept, we know that this system, when you have roots of the denominator on the left half plane, the real part on the left half plane, I know this system will be internally stable. The unforced solution will die out, and eventually my system will converge to a constant point, which is very beautiful. So this system doesn't blow up. But if, for example, we had here minus sign, then this term would be, I wanted to write plus. Instead of minus, we are going to have plus. So this term will go diverge to infinity, minus or plus, depending on the sign of D2. This system is not internally stable. So when we design later control, we also need to pay attention to this. This is an open loop unstable system. Anyway, turning back to this example, since both poles die out, this is an for now, I'm not gonna distinguish between stability, asymptotic stability, and all other properties. This system, for now, I'm gonna call a stable system. It doesn't blow up. Later, we're gonna define all of these very precisely, but this is not the right time. So I mentioned roots of the denominator. We give a name. They are so important. We get poles. In this case, poles of your system basically take this denominator, set it to 0, solve for the roots. You are going to find -1 and -2, and poles will play a very important role how unforced solutions will behave on a dynamical system. So we need to pay attention to the poles. Again, we are not solving it. By looking at the poles, we can understand, we can make some guess about the system behavior. And zeros, in this case, 0 is located on it is plus, unlike this. When a 0 is on the right half plane, which is meaning it has positive real part, we call it a non-minimum phase system. And those systems create problems on their own during the initial execution of the control algorithm, making the system go to the reverse way initially. But I'm not going to talk about those yet. Zeros will contribute, in addition to what I explained, to D3, D2, D1 constants. But for now, we focus on the poles. And again, if I conclude this video, we deal with different sets of ordered differential equations. The concept of transfer function is to basically take them, transform it to the Laplace domain with subject to zero initial conditions. And you have for this car dynamics, for this second order system, you have this. So you have such representations. And we are not going to forget poles should have negative real parts, or if they are real, they needs to be negative for our unforced solution to die out such that system is open loop stable. And when the system is open loop unstable, then of course, one of the aims of the feedback control is to internally stabilize the system. In addition, that system to go from point A to point B and do some other stuff. All right. I hope this lecture was helpful. We will continue with representations of dynamical systems. We're going to discuss state space. And state space representations basically I personally use, like most of the people, in my academic and industrial life. So because as you see here, we have one input and one output. And when you have multiple inputs and multiple outputs, transfer function representations can be done, but the math behind it becomes more complex. And transfer functions generally apply to linear systems. So when we have a nonlinear system, which I haven't discussed yet, then transfer functions cannot be our best friends. So, because they are developed for linear systems, then we need to talk about state space representations that can not only accept multi inputs and multi outputs, we can more compactly represent those cases like a quadcopter. It has four inputs, multiple outputs. So it is easier to represent such systems in the state space representation rather than transfer function. But yet, any control systems needs to discuss transfer functions. And while we are not going to use transfer functions for control design as a part of these lecture series, it is good to know transfer functions because later we can look at some transfer functions to assess some properties. It is a tool that we're going to use, although not for design, but later for analysis and understanding some key properties. Good for now. Remember, Laplace domain, subject to zero initial conditions, will give you the transfer function. And remember, poles and zeros and why poles are important to the solution. All right. Thanks. See you in the next video.